You're on, Asha.
Hello, everyone. Oh my God. So this morning, my niece got a big package. I honestly don't know from whom, but she opened it and it was a whole bunch of books. And this was one of the books. I almost flipped my lid. And then she tells me, guess what she tells me that made it worse? She's like, I already have another copy of this book. Someone gave it to me last year, is what my niece said. And I am exploding on the inside and trying not to explode in front of a 6-year-old on the outside. And I'm thinking, what kind of liberal jackass would send a child this book? And then I tell her, well, and then I couldn't stand it anymore. I'm like, oh, she's a horrible person. And then my niece asked, what makes her horrible? And I said, well, she once argued that this innocent person needed to stay in prison because he filed his paperwork too late. And she was like, oh, that sounds horrible. And then she asked, are all our vice presidents horrible people? And I said, yes. And she then asked, who's the most horrible? And then I was in a little bit of a conundrum. I didn't know if it was Richard Nixon or Dick Cheney. Who's worse? So it took me a while, and I said, but then I remembered the worst one was actually George Herbert Walker Bush, because Reagan was Ronald Reagan, whatever his name is. He was what do you call it? Brain vegetabled. And so George Herbert Walker Bush was the brains behind the vegetable. So anyways, I thought I'd read a little bit and share with you what this horror show is and whether it constitutes child abuse or I don't know. No, I don't even know if it's child. What is it? Like, it's I don't know what this is. How do I? Okay, so anyways, I can't read and show it to you at the same time. So, okay. Oh my God. It costs $17.99 US. Oh my God. Okay. Also, I'm going to have to look at which one of my sister's relatives or friends sent this. And I hope it's not a shared relative and it's a relative from the father's side, because it's going to be an ex-relative if they send it, if I find out that it was one of my relatives. Yeah, it's going to be an ex-relative. So, oh God. So now the front jacket has all these obnoxious, which way? By the way, I can't tell my right from my left, so somebody needs to be whispering instructions in my ear on which way to move my book. Okay. Jenna. Okay. Anyways, so we start with this like stupid, like a whole bunch of weird pictures from when she was a child. Okay. Okay, so now we're opening the book. Okay. Superheroes title page. Superheroes are everywhere. Kamala Harris. Illustrated by some person. I don't even want to list the person. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Faster than a rocket ship, stronger than a tidal wave, braver than a lion, superheroes always make the world better no matter what goes wrong. Okay. This is literally the great man theory, and Stalin would not be happy with this great man theory. Okay. Whenever there's trouble, superheroes show up just in time. No, they do not show up just in time. They never show up. There's no such thing as superheroes, you asinine. Like, this is like worse than telling kids the story of Cinderella, because at least Cinderella's like, kids know it's fake. But what the hell? Superheroes do not ever show up because there's no such thing as a superhero. When I was a kid, I was sure that superheroes were everywhere, blending in with regular people, ready to do good. Wait, is this like supposed to be allegedly Kamala's voice? That would be... Okay. I was determined to find them, so I started my superhero search right at home. And this is the... Oh no, it's dumb picture. Yuck. Heroes make you feel special. It didn't take too long to find one. I noticed my mom had a magic touch. Her hugs made me feel warm, safe, and even strong. She knew I loved good food, so she taught me her... Okay, she taught me her secret recipes. Indians do not have secret recipes because we're Indian. So what happens is that there's some dude who makes all the powders that you put like gooey liquid in, and that's literally all Indian dishes is heating up water and putting the powder in along with whatever crap. So there's like no secret recipes in India because everyone goes and buys these powder mix from the dude who makes the powder mixes. So this is a lie. Okay. She knew. Okay. And then we'd create huge, delicious meals together for our friends and family. No, they would not, because her mom was a South Indian Brahmin, and that would not be okay with the purity standards for Brahmins, because like I bet you Kamala would not be like washing, like, yeah, you kids are not allowed in, like, no, this would not happen. I even cooked some dishes all by no, she did not. No. That's just not good. That's just like not the way holidays is done in South Indian Brahmin households. Just not. See, Kamala, my mom would say, you can do anything if you put your heart in it and try hard and anything in the world. Indian mothers do not say that. That's just not what Indian mothers... This is what Indian mothers are like. If you don't study hard, you're going to be a loser. You have to be either a doctor or an engineer, or else you're a loser. That's an Indian mother, not this. Yeah. They're not going to say you can be anything you want. Like, that's like such a bourgeoisie Western thing. It's, you have to study hard or else you're going to be a loser. See? Okay. My mom was a superhero because she made me feel special. An Indian mom. Это неправда. She believed in me and helped me believe that No, Indian moms do not say that. They think that look, if you say, this is how it would be. Mom, I want to be an actress. Are you crazy? Most actresses have to work as prostitutes at night. No, you're not going to be an actress. You have to study engineering and become an engineer. And that's about it. Yeah. I don't know what the name is. I can't think of the name for the powder dude, but he like makes the powder for all the Indian food. The masala guy, masala. The powder is called masala. Okay. So this is all a lie. Who makes you feel special? Lenin. Because I don't know why Lenin makes me feel special, but he does. Okay. Heroes are people you can count on. My sister Maya and I did everything together. Ballet class, piano lessons, bike riding, and board game. I knew if I needed her, she'd be there. One half of our dynamic duo. When we felt sad, my mom would throw us no, she did not, an unbirthday party so we'd feel better. No, she did not. Your mom, this is a lie. I might be over-personalizing it based on my own mom, but this sounds highly dubious. No, she's like, what do you have to feel sad about? You're 4, is what an Indian mom would say. Go play. You have nothing to be sad about. You're 4, is what she'd say. Okay. When together we'd eat an birthday cake and open birthday presents and dance around the living room. Her mom's dead, so we can't even see if this is right or wrong. My Maya was always by my side. My sister was a superhero because she was someone I could count on. Who can you count on? Yuck. And I'd say Lenin. Okay. Heroes make you feel brave. I kept searching for superheroes in other parts of my family. My dad wanted me to be fearless. Whenever we were at the park, he'd let go of my hand and call out, "Run, Kamala, run." I'd run as far as I could, as long as I could. My dad was a superhero because he made me feel brave. Apparently not brave enough to, argue that innocent people should, yuck. What is this nonsense? Who cares how people make you feel? The world is not about your feelings, and little kids should not be focusing this much on their feelings because who cares? Jesus Christ. My grandmother was one of the smartest people I met, and she used her smarts and to speak out for women who were being hurt and to teach them how to stay healthy. In Madras? In the 1960s? This story is, and her grandmother is a Brahmin woman. This sounds a little more like a lie. My grandfather used his voice to make India a free country. I'm going to need verification. All my grandparents in India and Jamaica were superheroes for standing up for what's right. Wasn't one of your family like slave owners in Jamaica? I swear to God, one of her family members, her father admitted that one of her family members were slave owners. So this is her alleged grandfather and her alleged grandmother. God, this is traumatic. Let me see if there are any good comments. Let's see. Okay, I will get some wine then. I don't think she's hearing because she is painting. Artsy is painting, so let her paint. Yeah, she doesn't want to. We don't want to distract her. Yeah, it's totally crap. Kids don't do that unless you're in Alice in Wonderland. Lenin. Okay. I don't think there were any slaves in her ancestry. I'm pretty sure they were just owners. Like, I'm 90% sure they were just owners and there were no slaves, but I could be wrong. Heroes are best friends. Heroes are best friends. But my best friends and I cared about each other. When I was in kindergarten, I told a boy to stop. What a brave person. I told a boy to stop teasing one of my best friends. Another time, that best friend helped me when I fell on the playground. We all wanted to feel safe about your school. Feel safe. Again, it's about liberals and their feelings, and I don't care how you feel. The idea is your school safe, or are these like mad mujahideen psychos are going to come and burn your teacher's face with acid right in front of your eyes, like the U.S. government did in Afghanistan? Like, liberals, I don't care about, like, liberals are so obsessed about their feelings. Like, I just want to slap them so much. My best friends were superheroes because they made one another feel safe. It's not about your feelings, because this is probably a private school in either some urban private school, I bet you. Yeah. And Robert got the point. And I made sure kids did not feel safe at home because I had their parents arrested on false charges for truancy or something stupid like that. No, I want to do more than slap them with a white glove. Like, the saddest thing for me was reading Gulag Archipelago and realizing how humane the gulags were. And I'm like, there is no justice in this world. We are reading this birthday present that some soon-to-be ex-friend or definitely ex-relative mailed my niece for her 7th birthday. And my niece told me this is the 2nd copy of this book she has. And I was so horrified. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Heroes are teachers. I loved my 1st grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson. She taught us about plants and flowers, sang songs with us from cultures around the world, and revealed how tadpoles turned into frogs. Teachers like Mrs. Wilson are superheroes because they show us the whole wide world and help us chase our dreams. This is so much liberal nonsense. I just, like, seriously. Oh my God! They even have like an inclusive, like, diversity children thingy illustrated. Who are your favorite teachers? Nadezhda Krupskaya. Nadezhda Krupskaya. Because she taught people how to read. Okay. Oh God. Heroes are kind. When I looked, I found a superhero right down my street. Mrs. Shelton was our family friend and was like a second mom to me. She watched Maya and me while our mom was at work. We'd gobble her homemade biscuits, peach cobbler, and gumbo for special occasions and pile into her car for Sunday church. Mrs. Shelton treated everyone with respect. I'm a little doubtful that she went to church, but she might. Like, my mom let us to go to some random church, right-wing church club over the summer, so she might have, but her kindness made her a superhero to me. Who is kind to you? I don't care. I'd rather have people be vile to Kamala Harris than kind to me. I mean, seriously. And allegedly, this is Mrs. Shelton. Are you guys enjoying this reading? Oh God. That's cool. I like it when they badmouth people. Well, you should. It depends on the elder. So you should definitely listen to Lenin and Stalin and Mao and Ho Chi Minh, but don't listen to Kamala Harris. So it really depends on the elders. Okay, good. I wonder too, what exactly is this a prerequisite for? Like, what are they doing here and is this child abuse? Like, what are you doing to your child? I mean, yeah, I mean, it is propaganda and it's disgusting and it's stupid and liberal and should be banned and burned. Oh my God, this book should totally be burned and banned. After the revolution, we are banning all copies of this book and exiling the author to Siberia and exiling anyone involved in the production to Siberia. Any purchasers, we should make a list of all the people who have this book too. Okay. Interesting. It is propaganda geared towards the parents. Okay. Aunt Lenore. Interesting. Aunt Lenore and I chased fireflies and caught them in no, you didn't. It's like, okay, I bet you a Jamaican aunt, if she was really an aunt, she would be like, no fireflies exist. No, I can't. No, Jamaicans do retroflex on one letter, the T, I believe. No fireflies exist. I need to listen to the Jamaican accent before I can imitate this. Okay. But yeah, this is not. Uncle Sherman taught me to play chess. That I believe. Aunt Mary and I read a book together, and Uncle Freddie took me to museums where we'd see dazzling artwork. Okay, I believe that. My aunts and uncles, my mom's friends who were part of our family, helped me explore my world, and that made them superheroes. No, it did not. It made them like normal, weird human. Like, yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, it is geared towards the parent because the parents need to feel good about themselves for doing normal, non-abusive things to their children. So this is like a participation trophy where it's saying mom is a superhero for not abusing the child and making sure the child eats, and uncle's a superhero for not abusing the child and taking it to a museum or something stupid like this. So yes, it is absolutely propaganda geared towards liberal parents in order to make them feel good about not being an abusive piece of general shaisa. Yeah, that's what it is. It's propaganda geared towards liberal parents. Good observation, whoever made it. My sister's dog, Luna. Okay. So this is the picture. Yeah, that's exactly it. Okay, it's making stupid liberals feel good about like not yelling at their kids in school when they're a teacher or whatever, or like just being nice to someone like their siblings' kids or something like that. Okay, that makes so much sense. Okay, heroes work hard. Oh God. Even as I got older, I kept searching for superheroes. When it was time for me to go to college, I was excited to go where my Aunt Chris went to study, at Howard University. My grandmother hadn't had the chance to go to college. I don't believe that about her Indian grandmother. Her Jamaican grandmother, maybe. I don't know enough about Jamaica, but I don't believe this about her Indian grandmother. No. But she encouraged her kids. Oh, no, this is her Indian. No, this is a lie. Okay. But she encouraged her kids, my mom, my aunts, and uncle, to study hard. Okay, it's not encouragement. It's if you don't study hard, you will be a loser and you will have to live under a bridge for the rest of your life because we live in a capitalistic world. So no, this is not it. And they did. My mom became a scientist. My uncle Balu is an economist. My aunt Sarala is a doctor. And my aunt Chinny works with computers. Okay. Okay, that's, yeah, she didn't, yeah, that's what happens. Okay. They were superheroes because they showed me they did not work hard. They were Brahmins and they were given everything hand and foot. So they probably had some servant to like, okay, the worst case scenario is they had some servant to walk them to school. The most outrageous case scenario would be there was a driver assigned to them personally, and that driver would drive them to school and then wait for the next 8 hours in the car and then drive them back home. So that's the most outrageous kind of scenario. And the worst case scenario is a servant would walk them to school and then would walk them back. And it can be anywhere in between. So they were not hard workers. Jesus Christ. They are the highest caste in a country that had the caste system for God knows how, for 5,000 years. And every network is set up so that they could succeed. I could be whatever. They showed me that by working hard, I could be whatever I wanted to be when I could. No, you could not. They showed you that by being a descendant of a high caste Brahmin, you have the means to acquire whatever crap you wanted because of the relationship you have to power. Who do you know works hard? Probably the servant in Kamala Harris's grandmother's house, who probably worked there since like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. for like $20 a month. God knows. That person really works hard. The servant, who's probably untouchable too. I mean, this is just me guessing because I'm just guessing that because all I know is that her mom was a Brahmin family in Madras, Chennai. So I'm just using, based on my knowledge of Chennai and Madras, just improvising. I can probably find out. It's probably not that hard. I'll find out. Me too. Okay, they did not work hard. Heroes protect people. So it's not Kamala Harris because she threatens to send people to jail if their kids get sick and miss a day in school. Yeah. After college, I wanted to become a lawyer like some of the people she looked up to. Thurgood Marshall. Constance Baker Mosley and Charles Hamilton Houston. Somebody need to check this like timeline because I feel it's a little early because wait a minute. Thurgood Marshall would have been fighting his cases in the 1960s, it seems, and her it seems a little off with her timeline, but whatever. Okay. They fought in court because they knew people aren't always treated equally but should be. Like them, I wanted to make sure the law would protect everyone except for innocent people that she argued should stay in jail for the rest of their life because they had their paperwork filed late. And then there was this time where it's on this channel where this federal court judge was so outraged that she was like keeping this poor innocent man, the second innocent man, in prison. And then let's not forget all the let's not forget about the what's his name, the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, that she kind of let go. And and then all the what about the juveniles in San Francisco that she called ICE on? Oh my God. I think, and then I made a big thread about it, and historically, and she did something horrific about some other innocent man. So no, who protects you? Well, nobody, I guess. It should be up to you to protect yourself, but a dictatorship of the proletariat is the best personal protection one can have. Oh, I remember that. Lenin was a lawyer. Yeah, her father was mentioned in one sentence. He apparently taught her to be brave. But her father is. Oh, I forgot about the. Yes, she did argue that people needed to be in prison so they can be slaves to put out fires or something like that. Yep, you're right. Like I said, I mean, she is a total sociopath. And definitely not the Attorney General of California. Heroes make a difference together. Oh God. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Okay, the only time she'd be with these kids is if she was like calling ice on them or something. Once I became a lawyer and then a senator, I worked with all sorts of people to help kids. Really? Come on. You really did that. Because I swear to God, even better, I got to know amazing kids who I called ice on, who want to make the world a better, and who I turned into, like, who I would, oh God, what a disgusting piece. Heroes are not you. Heroes are basically people like Yakov Pavlov who do extraordinary things, like Sasha Pechersky, who is the only one who did the massive break, and Yakov Pavlov, like and his 4 friends took down like hundreds of German tanks or whatever. So no, heroes are not you, because then it would extinguish the point of having a hero if anyone can do it. I mean, it has to be something that very few people have done, like what Yakov Pavlov did, where he made a 4-story house in Stalingrad last longer against the Nazis than, say, all of France. But superheroes are everywhere you look. No, they're not. And even inside, no, they're not. Are you kind, brave, and curious? This is a 4-year-old child, so yes. Are you a best friend? Who cares? Do you share? She's 4. Do you treat people? She's 4. Do you help? No, because she's 4. You're a hero, or 6, whatever. 4, 6, whatever. You're a hero by being the best of you. Now no, you're not. I hate liberal nonsense. The hero code. Oh God, this is awful. Okay, the hero code begins with, you have to read Lenin collected works and then Marx. Okay, sorry. No, it's not. Do you want to be? No, you don't. Is it? It's easy. No, it's not easier than you think. The first thing to do is raise your right hand and say the words. If you want to wear a cape while you do it, you can, but you don't have to. What? Okay, don't confuse kids. I promise to make people feel special. No, you should not make anyone feel special. That is counter-revolutionary. To be someone people can count on. So you promise not to be like a human being who fulfills the obligation they agreed upon. Nope, that is not heroic. That is just being a human being, barely. Help people be brave. How do you help people be brave? That's stupid. Stand up for what's right, as in what's just. And that would involve not arguing that an innocent man should be in prison because he filed his paperwork late. Be a best friend. Why? Be a good teacher. For whom? Be kind. No. It's only good if you're kind to people lower on the totem pole than you, because that's what matters. Everyone sucks up to the boss or whatever, but it's about how you treat those who have less power than you. Okay. Explore with friends and family. No, don't explore, and you're 4, and you probably will get like glue in your hair. Study and work hard. Study well, I'd say. The hardness is stupid. Protect people who need it by making sure that innocent people are not in prison. Make a difference when I can. That's liberal bullshit. I promise to oh God, this is horrible. Okay. Oh my God. 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 Sorry. Lord, this is actually the worst part about it. It is a timeline of my life. Oh God. She said I was the second African American woman, but isn't her dad from the, okay, I don't even want to know. Okay. I don't know. Caribbean American, who cares? Jamaican American, I don't know. I'm confused now. Okay. Okay, so then it says, to all my children in my life and most recent additions, Amara and Leela, KDH, Kamala something Harris. Wow. Okay, you can visit her on kamalaharris.org or, oh my God, okay. I'm not going to say that you should troll the author on Twitter, but if you want to tell the author like what a terrible counter-revolutionary stupid book this is, here's her Twitter handle. Wait, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. Can you see it? Happy Hair Girls. Okay. What is it? Reading Rainbow? Yeah. Yes. And they accuse. I love LeVar Burton. I'm a Star Trekkie. Okay. And they accuse people of having a cult of personality for Stalin. And you know that what Stalin said about the cult of person, like somebody wanted to do a children's book about Stalin, and that was the only book he told people to burn. He said, that's going to develop a cult, burn that book, it's a bad idea, it'll give them what would he say, something like historical materialistic something. Janet made a video, so we can upload just that video later about this, but yeah, that's like the only book that Stalin wanted to burn. So that's what heroes would do, is that they would say, no, we don't want to give kids the great man theory of history instead of the historical materialistic and dialectical materialistic theory of history. So, no, but instead, this is so gross. Okay. That's a very good point. I never thought about it, but you're absolutely right. Obama, no. Kamala Harris, I'm 99% sure that her family was slave owners, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's what her dad said, but I could be wrong. So, okay, got it. Okay. So, so this week, we've had a lot of discourse about patriotism, whether or not the working class inside of the imperial core actually benefit from imperialism. The answer is yes, they do, because compare it to, just look up statistics and compare it to any other country, like compare it to any third world country, like any country in Africa or most countries in Asia or some countries in Eastern Europe. It will be horrific if you compare, or any country in Latin America, like things like not having your house droned upon. It might not seem like a big benefit, but a benefit is a comparative advantage. So that is the comparative advantage. And because you're not having your houses droned upon, you're not paying attention to drone strikes. So you're going to believe it when every time Obama says, oh, we kill terrorists. And that's, yeah. So, okay. I was right. Thank you. Okay. So now we have a really interesting show. We got Caboose from Georgia. So he used to be a boogaloo boy, but then he found Lenin and he became a Leninist, and he will tell you about the path that led him to Lenin. And then we are going to read an excerpt from What is to Be Done, so that people understand, like, if you just like, this is for the anti-read theory people who are like, I don't want to read, I'm anti-literate. So Lenin explains why you need to read. And Lenin also taught people how to read, which makes him more of a hero, but that's another story. Okay. I feel kind of gross doing a children's thing about Lenin too. It's kind of gross. Yeah. Yes. Sadly, yes. And I forgot what I was saying, but yeah, I feel kind of gross about doing that, because that also again gives children the wrong super great man theory of history, as opposed to the dialectical materialistic idea of change. But whatever. Jesus Christ, this is terrible. Okay, but I don't mind doing a children's book on Yakov Pavlov. We can do that. Okay. Anyways, we should talk to Artsy about illustrating a book about Yakov Pavlov, and maybe she sets up a GoFundMe or something. Like, okay, we'll talk afterwards. But yeah, okay, yeah, Yakov Pavlov feels cool to write a children's book about, but yes, he did. Some of them are fascists. Yes, he did. Okay. Thank you. This is the nicest thing somebody's ever said to me. This is so sweet. Aw. Okay. So with that, we'll be back at the end for any questions, comments, and any other horrible children's books that should be burned. Welcome to Late Nights with Lenin. Today we have Caboose from Georgia here with us, and I'm very excited because, well, we all have a different path to Lenin. One of my favorite pieces is Ho Chi Minh's The Path Which Led Me to Lenin, and Caboose's path is actually very different. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and like how your political outlook was formed, I guess?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh no, thank you for coming on.
So I grew up as an army brat, and so I was kind of more right leaning, but like wanted to be like all libertarian and stuff. And yeah. So after I had gotten out of the National Guard, I had started truck driving, and started when I was home doing like militia stuff, linking up with Boog.
Hold on. Can I ask you two questions? One about truck driving. I heard that truck driving is really like they make you like it's a crazy long hours. Do you have any horror stories about how long it was? Like any really long trips or any kind of workers abuse story?
Yeah. It's always been long hours. I was an over-the-road driver, and then I was an over-the-road trainer for a couple of years. Like I missed the birth of my daughter for like 4 hours.
Wow.
I missed a couple of holidays, missed my wedding anniversary.
Ooh,
back in the day.
You have a good wife then.
Not anymore.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happens. We're on good terms. It was a mutual thing. Yeah, but I mean, these companies, they just don't care. They just don't care about us. Like my ex, she went into labor, a couple of days before birth. And I was telling my company, I'm like, hey, I'm 600 miles away from home. Let me take the truck. And I was like, I can just drop this load. I'm already where I'm at to deliver this. And they said that the appointment wasn't scheduled for another couple days. So luckily, I had a trainee with me. So what I did is I had them drop me off at the bus station, and I left them by themselves with a truck, and left the truck and took 2 weeks off, and took a bus ride down. The next one was going to be 3 a.m. the next morning, and ended up getting there a couple hours after the birth of my daughter. And then another time I got hit, and somebody backed into me in York, Nebraska, and missed my kids. At the time, Thanksgiving was a family gathering and stuff, so I missed that with my kids. So
wow.
And then you work like usually the 70-hour clock is supposed to be a maximum for drive time, but companies are going to make you ride that out, and then they try to get you to work off the clock. And ultimately, it's because it's mileage based, and you try to use as little clock as possible so that you can get more miles and more money.
So you get a commission for each mile you drive?
Yeah, for company drivers, it's usually something crappy like 50 cents a mile or something. Because the company's making a lot more than that. But yeah, so you don't want to run out of hours to do that. So I came off the road because I wanted to have more time with my kid, but because it would be where I'd maybe see her like 12 hours once a month, and yeah, it's not super great.
Now, wow, this actually feels a lot like reading about reading Engels' expose about the conditions of the working class in 1845. It sounds so bad and cruel.
Yeah.
So you said you were in. So the second part. Okay, you said you were in a militia. So how did that happen? And if we should delete this question, please tell me, because I don't want to put you in danger or anything like that.
That's fine.
Okay.
It was more like a libertarian militia, like So with Magnus and them, we had like the Unity.
Who's
Coalition.
Magnus?
Magnus is the boogaloo boy out of Michigan. Did that speech a couple months back.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, that guy, long black beard.
Oh, okay. So wait, what was his speech? I can't remember actually.
I don't know. It was like it was not based in theory. It was like, hey, we all have to stand up and unite, and the tyrants and all that. But
okay,
if you would have read some theory,
Okay, so how did you get recruited by that group?
It wasn't really a recruiting thing. It was like a Facebook group, and you follow memes and stuff, and you post memes about violence against the government and rising up and all that. And some of it was like when it was larger Facebook groups and when it was larger media groups where we shared memes and stuff, we were able to kind of control the content. But there were fringe groups, of course, which ended up being the main thing it was known for. Was there were a lot of white supremacists using the Hawaiian shirts and everything. And a lot of people just were like, well, that's not the boog. This is the boog. To the point of where like we would form something called like 50-second penguins, where we would have like people that would make fake profiles and go into those groups and get them shut down. And it was stupid that they wasted so much time trying to control the narrative about a group to try and stop it from being called white supremacist instead of just not fucking wearing Hawaiian shirts. Like,
yeah,
it was such a waste of time.
So this is a really ironic thing, is that the only people on earth who have waged a war against the government and won are the communists.
Yeah.
So I find it really, I find that part really hilarious.
Yeah. It's a lot of U.S. nationalism, and they simp over the founding fathers because they're like, we got to defeat the tyrants, which are kings and stuff. And I'm like,
who?
Like the king. So like they fantasize over the like how capitalism came revolted against feudalism, and then the next step is communism. So that's where they're stuck at. They're stuck at overcoming feudalism, which is not. It's kind of dumb. So they simp over the founding fathers, which is so that.
Lenin is so much like Lenin's a genuinely good guy, and he is worth simping over.
So that's the thing is in those militia groups, they're reactionary in the sense that they don't read in the US. They don't read any theory. They don't read anything. It's purely reactionary. They call themselves anarchists. And then you have ANCAP types and libertarians, which libertarians, even like Spike Cohen, he likes to put off that he's like really smart and has all the statistical knowledge and stuff, but he'll be like saying some communist stuff like, hey, after the government's overthrown, you're going to need to wean people off the government and have something like a transitionary state. And then he'll start talking about how to use capitalism to get there. And I'm like, you were like right there.
That's exactly how I feel whenever I speak to a libertarian. I'm like 90. Okay, there are two kinds of libertarians. So the first kind I really like, the kind that's against all intervention, but they kind of really like they're against war, which is the best thing. Like they're one of the greatest allies. But then if you ask them what their idea is to do after we end wars, it's like usually something really dumb, like we should repeal the Civil Rights Act and let everyone have private police or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're like repeal all government and just let everyone go to their own little community in the woods and just let the rest of the world burn because they have the privilege to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. That's something funny. Whenever you would talk to like boogaloo groups about, hey, we have to rise up because defeating the government is how you overthrow things. And they're just like, yeah, then we'll just have no masters, no tyrants or anything. And then we're like, so what happens when someone bad comes along? It's like, well, we'll just stay together and fight against anybody who tries to rise up and take over. And we're like, okay, so basically you're wanting to become these pseudo warlords, stopping any kind of infrastructure. And you want to have a warlord over basically everywhere, but not have any of the benefits of an organized society. Cool. So just basically permanent suffering.
And the funny thing is that if they want to see what that looks like, all they have to do is look at Afghanistan from 1992 on. It's literally that. And that's not, so how does the white supremacy come in to libertarianism?
So libertarians are all about getting rid of the government, and it's all anti-establishment. And they didn't really establish any solid ideology. Like with the Boog, there was zero ideology except anti-establishment. With libertarians, there's almost zero ideology except for anti-government. And so who does that attract? Literally anybody that's anti-establishment. Like that was what book was it? It was Black Shirts and Reds.
Michael Parenti. I love that one.
Yeah. So the how basically you have the reactionaries that think they're revolutionaries because they use some of the same language. And it just attracts everybody that doesn't like the government or doesn't like being controlled.
99% of the population.
Yeah. And so then you have a lot of these Boog groups that have people with like Black Sun profile pictures and like.
What is the Black Sun, if I may ask, for people who aren't familiar?
The Black Sun's like that Nazi thing. That's pretty much all I know.
Okay.
I just know it's a white supremacist thing. And I know it's bad. Like that's pretty much all I looked into about it. So we'll have like, there were some guys in like a gun group that I joined to buy and sell guns privately. And they had that profile picture and I was like, dude, you're literally a Nazi. And he was like, no, I'm not a Nazi. I'm just a white nationalist. I don't like socialism. And I was like, how did you just make Nazism worse? Like, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. People are fucking terrible.
I have a quick question. Is it like the background, for lack of a better terminology, like suppose you just kind of live in a moderately comfortable life and then there's like, is the background radiation within the country enough to turn people into right-wing white nationalist sympathizers, or does there need to be an extra step?
It just depends on what people care about. Because everyone can notice that there's something wrong if they just open their eyes and just look.
Yeah.
So all that does is just, if you understand that depression exists, then that just leads you to search for an ideology, search for a reason. So a lot of these people, they look at the police brutality and they think, okay, government bad. Mm-hmm. And that leads some people to just join these reactionary groups, and they don't really read through. They just know, hey, this is the thing. Cause they look at like the founding fathers of the US, and they look at, oh, they fought against the government, but no, they were just fighting for which ruling class. They weren't. Yeah. Anyways. So they look at that and they're thinking, okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to fight against the tyrants. And that's it. That's as far as they think.
Oh, and okay. They don't know who the tyrant is, and the fact that the government is an organ of class rule, and that James Madison said the purpose of the police is to protect those with property from those whom blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So they don't read. They just know, they just look and see government bad. So then they decide all government bad, and they fall into, it's basically just US nationalism, but anti-government. So
the paradox, like I always try to understand that. That's like so paradoxical. Yeah. Oh, okay. Can I ask you about this Twitter hot take? Everyone's irritating me with their stupidity on U.S. patriotism on the left. And do you have an opinion on that?
Oh yeah. You can't be a leftist for the people if you're fantasizing about being proud of literally the imperial core of capitalism. Like, you can't be proud of an imperialist country and say you're a communist, which is for the people. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's just a shit take.
Okay, very well spoken. And okay, now we'll get to the exciting part. Like, what is the path that led you to Lenin?
Basically, like when I was in Louisville, we were doing Breonna Taylor stuff.
She was the woman who was shot while she was sleeping or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I had went up there and done security for the protesters up there, because the police up there and a couple other big cities during protests, they just let cars through and whatever. So we were up there, and there were like communists wearing like hammer and sickle patches and stuff, and one of them showed me how to use Narcan, and a couple of different Narcan's like the anti-overdose thing. You can put it in.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, like you jab it into your leg or you go up your nose.
Yeah.
And so now I carry that with my medical stuff for protests. So they one of them showed me how to do that, and I was already kind of like a left-leaning centrist. Because I gave a shit about people. Mm-hmm. And but I just hadn't read anything yet. So I started talking to different communists, and I started talking to a lot of mutual aid groups that also had communist ideas, and they were either ANCOMs or the full communist Marx-Leninists. And I did a lot of protests just that were ran by Marx-Leninists. And we thought, just without reading any theory in the first place, we were just like, yeah, we can all work together. We're all against the people who are fucking stuff up. But we were being reactionary because I heard a lot of the same people I was running with talking about how communists are also evil, how they're also authoritarian and they're red fash. So I was like, these are the same people like we work with all the time at different protests. I'm like, so I got into a Twitter argument. And that's and then I was like, all right, a whole bunch of communists are yelling at me now. Let's find some middle ground. Let's read what they're talking about. And that was with Sal Kami. She does the Red Army on Twitch. But yeah, so I started talking to her on a Twitter feed in public, and was just basically getting dogpiled by a bunch of communists. And they were like, wow, that's so like privileged. And they were just telling me that I was kind of dumb for not reading theory. And I was like, all right, I should probably read theory then. I should probably start reading some of this. So they recommended Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. And I was a truck driver at the time. So
what's it called again?
Blood in My Eye.
Oh, Blood in My Eye. Yeah, that's a good one about fascism.
I love it. Yeah. And I just absolutely loved it. And it ended really spicy. And that's the kind of stuff that a lot of militants really like. And so that's kind of also what I started pushing around for everybody to read. at the time. So then I read that, I read State and Revolution, I read the Communist Manifesto, and then it just like more and more and more. And eventually I'm just like, hey, all this shit's just common sense. Like all this stuff makes sense. It's just, if I would have been, running around my thumb in my ass, I wouldn't have came to these conclusions on my own. All I would have known is shit's fucked up. And I would have just pretty much continued what I was doing. But I had to realize that reactionaries are not revolutionaries. You can't sit around and wait for it. You can't wait for the shit to hit the fan. You got to build up. You got to manufacture the conditions favorable for revolution, which would be mutual aid, building up community tenants unions, feeding, all that stuff. And you build dual power, and that way things are in place. And then I started learning. I haven't read a whole lot of Mao, but somebody was telling me that's kind of how Mao did it, built up a community, then spread out. And I'm a little unread, so.
No, you are way more. Okay. So how I found you was because you made a very decent take about theory on Twitter. I can't remember what you said, but it was very decent and very middle of the ground. Like it was like nothing outrageous, like nothing I usually make far more outrageous statements every single day, but you made, and then you got dogpiled by all these like, both liberals and anarchists about like, oh, this is so elitist. And I'm like, no, are you a slave in Russia? You're not. So you can handle it. And you know how to read because you're typing on Twitter. So you can handle this. Yeah. Like, so that's how so I find I don't call them, they're illiterate, but literacy just has not helped them. So they're like, a lot of liberals are this way too. Anti-literate. Like, do you have anything advice for them?
Theory comes in, like, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to bamboo music, there's tons of communist artists. I mean, my girlfriend, she plays, yeah, you can just listen to people who read theory and who talk about it. Like, there's there's literally an infinite number of ways. And if you still choose not to learn any theory, then you can't say that you identify with the theory that exists. Like, if you don't read or if you don't learn the theory in any of the ways, or if you don't even seek it out, or if you find it and choose not to read it, then you're either a liberal or you're a reactionary. Which
liberals are reactionaries, because we totally know when that day comes where it's socialism or barbarism, they might not agree with barbarism, but they're totally going to do it anyways.
Yeah, sometimes like, so what reactionaries is a lot of times people use reactionaries for right-wing reactionaries is they try to react to what happens and try to return to an old way of doing things. Mm-hmm. But I would also say that if someone doesn't read theory, then they are very prone to being reactionary, even if they're on the left, because if they see something or if there's propaganda that catches their eye, they have no other input. They have no other self-learned method to say what they believe in. So they're just literally going with the flow or listening to whatever they're told.
Yep. And we saw that, I don't know, maybe you were too young, but we saw that during 9/11, where everyone went en masse, like panic mode, and became very bloodthirsty.
Yeah, I was a small child.
Okay. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So with that, let's see. You also apparently, I listened to most of the podcast. So it looked like you also tried to have like a reconciliation session with the communists versus the unread boogaloo boys, and it didn't work out too well. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was with people that were part of the Unity Coalition. So the Unity Coalition they are boogaloo who fancy themselves allies of like BLM and leftist movements, but they just actively choose not to read leftist theory, or they say they do and call communists red fash or authoritarian, and like, you're telling on yourself, bro.
Then go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, then they say all these bad things about theory that's not in theory. And I'm like, okay, so you're saying you read all these things. You're telling me you haven't by what you're saying about communism. But so that was a huge argument. So those were the people I was talking to, people that are supposedly against, they're for social changes and being socially progressive, but they're not for social revolution. They are for anti-establishment reaction. So I was,
but that literally can be anything, can be anti-establishment, good or it's a dice roll.
Yeah. And so that they're, when I talk to them, they are ANCAP types and they fancy themselves revolutionary. And I'm like, hey, if you're a revolutionary, then learn the methods of revolution. Like it's in these books. And so when I start recommending these books to them, it started by me doing a Twitter post that said, maybe communism isn't so bad. And they were like, you're betraying us. And I was like, read a book just once, just any book. And that went on for a couple weeks, but yeah, the conversation was basically me trying to break down communism in a simple method that they would agree with. And most of the ideas they do agree with, they just feel like it's something that they'll be forced into. And so when I say that left-wing people need to read theory, I'm not saying everybody needs to read theory or they're trash. I'm saying that if somebody already declares they're a leftist, read theory. But for everybody else that's not at that point yet, it's okay to break down. It's okay to baby them a little bit and work them into it. Like
I am super babying this because I was on Katie Halper's show once. And then I asked them why they didn't read Lenin. And they were like, oh, it's too hard. You need to read it to us. And I said, okay, I will babysit you and read it to you. And that's how I started this show.
Nice. So theory is written to be pretty simple. It was written, well, Lenin was writing 150, 100 years ago, in about in that range. And it was written for the working class then.
People
wasn't
who
written,
couldn't read. It was written for people who were just learning how to read because Lenin actually taught them how to read.
Yeah. And I mean, now anybody that can argue with me on Twitter has access to podcasts, has access to music, has access to these books.
And they are not a slave in Tsarist Russia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always show them, whenever they say it's too hard, I always show them this paragraph from the history of the CPSU Bolsheviks, where you learn about these workers in St. Petersburg that worked from like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then they came to the Marxist study circle where they learned how to read. And then they learned how to read Marx like till 1 a.m. And I mean, obviously, like no one should live that life. And that's why they had a revolution. But if they can do it, you have it much easier. Your obstacle is not the same.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I actually, my TikTok account got banned because this, he's not a good libertarian. He's one of those neocon Republican cosplaying as a libertarian. But I said that the Sandinistas taught people how to read in 5 months. And that's true. But so then he said false. And he gave me a source. He hadn't read his own source that he gave me. And his own source said that I was right. So I said, oh, it looks like you too could have used a little bit of the Sandinista literacy program. And he got me mass reported. And my 5,000 follower TikTok account is banned now forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of people online. They're just contrarians. They just want to argue just to argue.
Yeah,
and no matter what,
too.
Yeah, no matter what you say, if you're on the other side, they're going to argue against you, and they're going to find biased research or biased.
It wasn't even biased. He didn't. He just had not read his piece. He probably Googled the first. I don't know, but it was funny because yeah. A lot of times the right wing, like Republican types, can be such whiny snowflakes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the best thing. Okay. So this is kind of related to people who are like, a lot of the tweets that you got were something like, oh, I have a good heart, so we'll just like organize and do good things. And I keep telling people You're fighting against a nuclear armed superpower with a military of 1 million people.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say necessarily the military force. I would say that just being a good person doesn't mean you're being for the people. Like there's plenty of churches that go out, do mutual aid, or they do charity and they call it mutual aid, and then they just leave and forget about it. There's plenty of people that go to protest and they're going out somewhere else, doing something else that night. And it's purely pageantry, like where it's to make them feel good. Just being a good person doesn't make you a leftist. Just being a good person kind of can make you realize that you need to read theory or maybe need to do something more. But just doing charity work doesn't mean you're making any revolutionary changes.
Exactly.
Like mutual aid has to be about building communities to be revolutionary. So it's in your verbiage, it's in your how you do your actions, what your motivations behind it are.
So we are reading section 4 of What is to be Done. And FYI, Rabotchia Diallo is a newspaper written by the what Lenin calls the young Marxists. Okay. By the way, Lenin's much funnier in Russian and he's much more trollier. But people who translated him were like, would like the leader of the world, like would a world leader be this trolly? So they've often like muted him down in English. Okay. Rabotchia Diallo's assertions, which we have analyzed, that the economic struggle is the most widely applicable means of political agitation, and that our task now is to lend the economic struggle itself a political character, etc., express a narrow view, not only of our political, but also of our organizational tasks. The economic struggle against the employer and the government does not at all require an all Russia centralized organization. And hence, this struggle can never give rise to such an organization that will consist of professional revolutionaries to be led by real political leaders of the entire people. This stands to reason. The character of any organization is naturally and inevitably determined by the content of its activity. Consequently, Rabotchia Diallo's Rabotchia Diallo, by the assertions analyzed above, sanctifies and legitimizes not only narrowness of political activity, but also of organizational work. In this case, Rabotchia Diallo, as always, proves itself an organ whose consciousness yields to spontaneity. Yet subservience to spontaneously developing forms of organization, failure to realize the narrowness and the primitiveness of our organizational work, our handicraft methods in this most important sphere, failure to realize this, I say, is a veritable ailment from which our movement suffers. It is not an ailment that comes with decline, but one, of course, that comes with growth. It is, however, at the present time when a wave of spontaneous indignation, as it were, is sweeping over us, leaders and organizers of the movement, that an irreconcilable struggle must be waged against all defense of backwardness, against any legitimation of narrowness in this matter. It is particularly necessary to arouse in all who participate in practical work or are preparing to take up that work, discontent with amateurism prevailing among us, and an unshakable determination to rid ourselves of it.
So he's talking about how the new Marxists are being kind of reactionary, or they're trying to come up with things on their own. They're not really doing a concerted effort. It's kind of spontaneous.
Well, yeah. So the old Marxists all got arrested and got shipped off to Siberia. And then, so after so when when Lenin and company were in Siberia, these younger crowd came in, and instead of like saying, okay, we're going to overthrow the Tsar, they were like, why don't you try to just I don't know, strike for better wages? So Lenin was, I guess Lenin is saying that no, you can't have like a narrowness in your task. Your organization needs to be bigger, and we need to fight against amateurness, which involves not reading theory.
Okay, so they're talking about just there's already the answers there. It's already been done. So just kind of learn from those who came before you.
I mean, yeah, because later in this, a lot of people think that you need to just try to attract the biggest group possible. But Lenin comes in and says, no, maybe we can't attract the biggest group possible, because then the Tsar is going to come with his 4 million police force and then arrest like a big number of us and kill half of us. And then we lose all institutional knowledge. So we need to make sure that it lasts long enough to like overthrow the Tsar. So we need to have people that won't get us like, we basically, it's not about having the biggest, but
the most
growing
effective.
Bigger, most effective. Exactly.
Okay, so what is primitiveness? We shall try to answer this question by giving a brief description of the activity of a typical social democratic study circle of the period 1894 to 1901. We have noted that the entire student youth of the period was absorbed in Marxism. Of course, these students were not only, or even not so much, interested in Marxism as a theory. They were interested in it as an answer to the question, what is to be done? As a call to take the field against the enemy. These new warriors marched to battle with astonishingly primitive equipment and training. In a vast number of cases, they had almost no equipment and absolutely no training. They marched to war like peasants from the plow, armed only with clubs. A student circle establishes contacts with workers and sets to work without any connection with the old members of the movement, without any connection with study circles in other districts, or even in the other parts of the same city, or in other educational institutions, without any organization of the various divisions of revolutionary work, without any systematic plan of activity covering any length of time. The circle gradually expands its propaganda and agitation. By its activities, it wins the sympathies of fairly large sections of workers and of a certain section of the educated strata, which provide it with money, and from among whom the committee recruits new groups of young people. The attractive power of the committee or League of Struggle grows. Its sphere of activity becomes wider, and the committee expands this activity quite spontaneously. This very people who a year or a few months previously spoke at the students' circle gathering and discussed the question, whither, who established and maintained contacts with the workers and wrote and published leaflets, now establish contacts with other groups of revolutionaries, procure literature, set to work to publish a local newspaper, begin to talk of organizing a demonstration, and finally turn to open warfare, which may, according to circumstances, take the form of issuing the first agitational leaflet, or the first issue of a newspaper, or of organizing the first demonstration. Usually, the initiation of such actions ends in an immediate and complete fiasco. Immediate and complete because this open warfare was not the result of systemic and carefully thought out and gradually prepared, planned for a prolonged and stubborn struggle, but simply the result of spontaneous growth of traditional study circle work, because naturally the police in almost every case knew the principal leaders of the local movement, since they had already gained a reputation for themselves in their student days, and the police waited only for the right moment to make their raid. they deliberately allowed the study circle sufficient time to develop its work so that they might obtain a palpable corpus delicti.
Tasty body corpse or tasty body.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not good at pronunciation.
Don't worry.
And they always permitted several of the persons known to them to remain at liberty for breeding, which, as far as I know, is the technical term used by both our people and by the gendarmes.
Yeah, gendarmes, I just learned, is a French police who is militarized. So that's what I love about Lenin is he always gives you the most specific word to describe anything. But I do have one factoid to add. So you know where all the Tsarist Ukranophiles ended up? At the Hoover Institute in California, named after the head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. So our spy agencies have this technique perfected, but now they have 100 years of extra technology to spy more on you and make it even harder. So that's why reading theory becomes even more important.
I like how it said that the police will just let the activist leaders just build and build and build because they make a name for themselves. It becomes easy. They act in this spontaneity. I don't know. Because I know a lot of activist circles, they have the same organizers, and those organizers get arrested constantly, and then they're out the next day. They're becoming very predictable. And I guess this is talking about organizing a
corpus delicti, tasty corpse, like a what do you call it? Like a honeypot.
Yeah. So like even these people who are organizing protests, like them making such a large name for themselves, them making such a large show without ever actually accomplishing any revolutionary change, it's really just attracting everybody, making them feel revolutionary. And it's wasting revolutionary potential of the working class. That's pretty, I like this. I'm going to share this.
Okay, absolutely. Okay. I think we're at one cannot help.
Yeah. Let me move the picture.
Okay.
Well,
would it be easier if we were to text it to you or no?
No, because then I'd have to go off Zoom.
Okay. I see what's going on. Okay, got it.
And when I go off Zoom, it freezes up.
Oh, I see now. Okay.
One cannot help comparing this kind of warfare with that conducted by a mass of peasants armed with clubs against modern troops.
Now they have those troops. If we're going to take this metaphor further, now those troops have drones and nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, also a lot of citizens that are open to leftist politics. We have a lot of people that were also in Iraq and Afghanistan. We have a lot of military war vets that are on the left. So, I mean, they see a lot of ways that the U.S. is actually pretty conquerable. Like it wasn't, it wouldn't have to waste all this time trying to convince people it's insurmountable.
No, you're absolutely right. And Lenin actually spread propaganda amongst the soldiers and the sailors. And then he recruited them so much that when the time came, they were like, bang, and turned their guns.
Yeah.
So that was a very good. And the funny thing was that the Tsar's army was just as big as ours, or maybe even bigger. So it was. And another similarity is that they were recruited. Okay. So often landowners, if somebody was like being like a belligerent teenager, or kind of like a bad teenager, are not obedient enough, they would then like punish them by drafting them into the army. So that kind of eventually like worked against them because but I can't help but notice how that's also what our army is. A lot of teenagers who are kind of lost. They're not bad per se, but they don't have direction. So then the recruiters come and just kind of can steal them away because they don't have a sense of direction.
There's a reason they recruit at high schools. And then also you have sometimes people that'll go do jail sentences and they have the option to enlist instead of serve out a sentence in the US. So, I mean, there are a lot of people that come from kind of alternative or kind of progressive politics, or aren't necessarily best friends with the US government. And then they're put into the US government. And also a lot of underprivileged people see that as the way to build a life. And also there's a reason that they recruit in high schools, because you're raised up your whole life to worship the flag in the US. And usually by the time people are out of high school for a couple of years, they're pretty much over it. But if a recruiter can go into a high school and catch people that are still like blinded by their patriotism, all their children's books, then it's easier to get people in. That's why when you have basic training groups, you might have 1 or 2 people that are above like 22. Everybody else is a child.
Wow.
Like I enlisted at 17. Like it was.
Is that even legal?
Yeah, it is legal if you have one of your parents sign. So I had my mom sign, and they told me it was probably a bad idea, but I was like, I know what I'm doing. This is what I want to do in my life. I want to like bring freedom to the world. And yeah, I was a dumb kid.
Good. Don't worry. Actually, I interviewed somebody last week. His name is Brian Berlectic. He also said he was recruited at 17, but he was doing some sort of like mechanic work, like fixing airplanes or something. But yeah, so you're the second person I've met who was recruited at 17. So we need to check on the statistics of like how much child labor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of children. Like before I went to training, I was 18, but after you enlist, they have it in your head that there's no way to get out of this. Once you sign that contract, they have it in your head, your property. Like there's no way out. Like they convince you if you go AWOL or if you don't show up to something, you're going to Fort Leavenworth, and you're going to go to Army jail.
That's funny because like, come on. I mean, like in that case, they'd have to send everyone because everyone misses 1 or 2 things.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it was very scary if you thought once you enlisted that you were in it forever. Like I was like maybe 2 months down the road and I was like, sure would maybe like to do something else. I would like to maybe join a different branch or go do a different job. And I'd already signed the contract. So I was like, I'm stuck with it now. I'll just do this.
Which branch were you in again? I forgot.
I was in the Army National Guard.
What's the Army National Guard?
So it's like the reservist component of the Army that's funded by the state. So like we would be the ones that were doing domestic stuff, like the ones that were all up at the Capitol.
Oh, okay.
During Biden's inauguration, that was all National Guard. And but also they're the ones that are military that are reacting to like natural disasters and stuff. Like I had been activated for Hurricane Irma, Matthew, and then the snowpocalypse in Atlanta. It was just, that was dumb.
Well, it seems like this is actually the only part of the military that is like legitimately working on defense, and everyone else is like imperialism.
Sometimes there was a change where they started deploying them overseas so that the state could save money and the federal government would pay, or the national government would pay for the soldiers. So then you had cycles where every like 3 or 4 years, you'd have a National Guard unit go to like Afghanistan or Kosovo or one of those. Like my unit was getting all excited and hyped up to go to Afghanistan, but luckily it got off ramped. So yeah. Yeah. Like at the time I was like hyper earn my stripes. Let's go. But now I'm like, I'm so glad I never did that.
Yeah. You don't need to be killing Pashtun villagers for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I see it that way. At the time we were all convinced that they were terrorists trying to take our freedom or just murdering everyone. And we were like, we got to bring freedom.
It's funny. In this early on in this podcast, we interviewed, and actually historically, we interviewed a guard from Guantanamo Bay. And he was like, I had no idea what a terrorist looked like. It could have it could have been a Martian. So then when he saw his first terrorist, who was like, he apparently was hobbling on one leg and like didn't have one leg. And he's like, wait, how can this guy be a threat to our national security? And then like, eventually he like whistle blew about all the horrors. But it's funny because for him, it was like, so he was so young and he couldn't contextualize anything.
Yeah, because I mean, all you really got to go off of is what you're told, and I mean, you're kind of convinced not to read, or you're overworked to the point of you don't really want to read or learn anything else. And also, McCarthyism is real. Everyone believes communists are like super evil. That's why, like, I wear a hammer and sickle out and talk to people, because like, a lot of right wingers look at me and think they immediately identify with me, and they just want to talk to me.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen to me before too. It's funny because what they really So what I noticed is with right wingers, they don't like when you nuance. I call it nuance cucking. When you nuance cuck, it really irritates them because they think you're getting ready to lie, which is probably right. But if you're direct, they trust you more. So often they're like, so are you a communist? I'm like, yep, I'm a member of the CPUSA. And they appreciate the honesty, and that like makes them actually, so it's worked so often with me where they're like, okay, do you believe in free speech? I was like, nope, I don't think fascists should have free speech. And then they're like, oh, okay, you're honest. And then I tell them why I don't, how the press is like an organ of state power, blah, 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 blah. And it needs to be a working class press. Well, you can go into them, but they don't like it when you're dishonest, and they can sense that.
What I do is I kind of meet them where they're at, and instead of saying working class, I'll be like blue collar workers, and like I'll just say language that they already associate with. Like, they want workers' rights, they just don't want it for anyone else but themselves.
But they have to understand it's either all of us, and actually, we should. I don't know if I can handle this movie for a second time, but if I can, we should watch it. Janet and I watched it. It's called Sobibor. And that's the only mass break from a concentration camp. And like the guy who organized it, Sasha Pechersky, he keeps repeating, it's either going to be all of us or none of us. Like and that's the only way it can happen is all of us or none of us.
See, and a lot of them will relate to that because, you know, a lot of them just try to associate with imperial soldiers, U.S. soldiers, and they'll be like, no soldier left behind or no person left behind. And that'll be a good, decent talking point. Also, a lot of them hate taxes. So if you start talking about like, hey, doesn't it suck where our tax dollars are going? And then you have to kind of
abolish taxes. And now, no, he really did abolish taxes.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice like to completely abolish money, but that's usually not what they like to hear. So I usually am able to kind of talk to where people are at, or like people will tell you who they are and what they believe very quickly if you let them. So if you just like listen to people for a couple seconds and then you start relating to them, like I had a guy at work who was talking to me about how rent prices are outrageous and it's getting so communistic. And I was like, well, actually, under communism, there wouldn't be any rent.
Rent in Moscow under communism was $6 a month.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, so I'm a communist. So let me talk to you a little bit. And yeah, so I mean,
actually, once this like right-wing radio host once tried to invite me to a debate, but then he said something about like he said something about guns, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. Karl Marx would have agreed too, and so there was nothing to debate because I didn't fundamentally like he thought I was a liberal or something, and but so then he immediately warmed up, and I was explaining why people would protest. I said they're frustrated. It's a COVID, blah, and he's like, oh yeah, I agree. So it was really funny that just the fact that I wasn't what he imagined me, like he became so warm and didn't even debate.
Yeah, I mean, not everything has to be a debate. You can just discuss things with people, even if they don't agree with you. You'll find certain things you agree with and meet them where they're at, and then talk about different things you can learn together, different things you can do together. But at the same time, you can compromise in a situation, but you shouldn't compromise yourself in a situation. That's an Immortal Technique quote. So that's Immortal Technique.
Okay.
He's a rapper. Okay. Raids became so frequent, affected such a vast number of people, and cleared out the local study circles so thoroughly that the masses of the workers lost literally all their leaders. The movement assumed an amazingly sporadic character, and it became utterly impossible to establish continuity and coherence in the work. The terrible dispersion of the local leaders, the fortuitous character of the study circle memberships, and the lack of training in and the narrow outlook on theoretical, political, and organizational questions were all the inevitable result of the conditions described above. Things have reached such a pass that in several places the workers, because of our lack of self-restraint and the inability to maintain secrecy, begin to lose faith in the intellectuals and to avoid them. The intellectuals, they say, are much too careless and cause police raids.
Okay. Chomsky is one of the most irritating people. He does this too. But in this context, intellectuals mean people who went to school and are able to read. Workers are people who can't read. So, anyways, yeah. Okay. Continue.
Anyone who has the slightest knowledge of the movement is aware that all thinking social democrats have at least begun to regard those amateurish methods as a disease, in order that the reader who is not acquainted with the movement may have no grounds for thinking that we are inventing a special stage or special disease of the movement. We shall refer once again to the witness we have quoted. We trust we shall be forgiven for the length of the passage. Okay. While the gradual transition to more extensive practical activity, writes BV and Robichaud Diallo. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Raboche. Okay. So rabotat means rabotat means worker. To work. Rabocheia means to workers. So business. So diallo. Rabocheia diallo.
Rabocheia diallo.
Perfect.
Number 6, a transition that is directly dependent on the general transitional period through which the Russian working class movement is now passing is a characteristic feature. There is, however, another no less interesting feature in the general mechanism of the Russian workers' revolution. We refer to the general lack of the revolutionary forces fit for action. All italics are as Lenin. Was I supposed to read that part?
Yeah. It makes it funnier.
Okay. Which is felt not only in St. Petersburg, but throughout Russia. With the general revival of the working class movement, with the general development of the working masses, with the growing frequency of strikes, with the increasingly open mass struggle of the workers, and with the intensified doubt, skip the line, with the intensified government persecutions, arrest, deportation, and exile, this lack of highly skilled revolutionary forces is becoming more and more marked, and without a doubt cannot but affect the depth and the general character of the movement. Many strikes take place without any strong and direct influence upon them by the revolutionary organizations. A shortage of agitational leaflets and illegal literature is felt. The workers' study circles are left without agitators. In addition, there is a constant dearth of funds.
Okay, by the way, let me just pause. Just so you guys know, the way Lenin funded the Bolshevik Revolution was robbing the bank in Tbilisi, Georgia. So when candidates ask you for money, ask them to rob a bank.
Nice. Hell yeah.
That's what I've like. Every time a Justice Democrat texts me, I'll tell them to go rob a bank.
I'm going to use that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's crazy because everybody, people who haven't read theory or haven't looked at history, they imagine that Lenin and Marx and Engels, they were all like just sitting around reading theory and writing. Like, no, they were actually doing shit. Like,
oh yeah. I mean,
like,
Lenin was not. I mean, Lenin was, to be fair, sitting right in his apartment in Munich, writing very mean letters to a lot of people to coordinate them. But yeah, I mean, but he thought of the idea of robbing a bank, and then he and then he kind of got Stalin to do it. But the funniest thing is, so this happened in 1907. In about I can't remember, 1912 or 1915, he totally forgot. I'll show you the letter. But he totally forgot Stalin's last name. He was like, "What's that guy who helped us? Joseph Ju. It starts with Joseph J. It's very important. We forgot his name? Let me find it. Let me see if I can. I can find it. Give me 1 second. It's really funny because oh yeah. I tweeted about this once, but yeah, Lenin. I just find it really endearing somehow that he totally forgot his name. That's a Russian one, and I'll get that. But here, this is big favor. Do you know that guy's name, last name, Joseph? You hear it's like Yusuf. It's like, okay, he says something like big favor. Do you know, or does Stepko or Mihi know the last name of Kobe? His first name is Yusuf J, and then he goes dot dot dot. We forgot. It's very important.
Дорогой ВК, посылаю корректуры. Очень прошу Ольгу ответить мне на вчерашнюю открытку поподробнее. Большая просьба. Узнайте от Степко или от Михи и тому подобное фамилию Кобы. Иосиф Дж... мы забыли. Очень важно. Не купите ли для меня в счет расходов ЦО брошюры Ромен Ролан «Au-dessous de la mêlée»? Или ее нет в Женеве? Приветы самые лучшие. Ваш Ленин. Спасибо за присылку Appeal to Reason. Посылайте его почаще.
What is Kobe?
That was Stalin's nickname first before he picked Man of Steel.
Ah, I did not know that.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know why, but I find that really funny.
I mean, yeah. In a word, the growth of the working class movement is outstripping the growth and development of the revolutionary organizations. The numerical strength of the active revolutionaries is too small to enable them to concentrate in their own hands the influence exercised upon the whole mass of discontented workers, or to give the discontent even a shadow of the coherence and organization. Even a shadow of coherence and organization. The separate study circles, the separate revolutionaries scattered, uncombined, do not represent a single strong and disciplined organization with proportionately developed parts. Admitting that the immediate organization of fresh circles or fresh study circles to replace those that have been broken up merely proves the vitality of the movement, but does not prove the existence of an adequate member of adequately prepared revolutionary workers. The author concludes, the lack of practical training among the St. Petersburg revolutionaries is seen in the results of their work. The recent trials, especially that of the Self-Emancipation Group and the Labor Against Capital Group, clearly showed that the young agitator, lacking a detailed knowledge of working class conditions, and consequently of the conditions under which agitation can be carried on in a given factory, ignorant of the principles of secrecy, and understanding only the general principles of social democracy, if he does, is able to carry on his work for perhaps 4, 5, or 6 months. Then come arrests, which frequently lead to the breakup of the entire organization, or at all events of part of it, or at all events of part of it. Organization of part of it. Sorry, that was kind of phrased weird.
Well, but yeah, that's because I know why, because in Russian word order literally does not matter. And so you can make really long sentences, I guess. And in English, it's kind of hard to translate. Yeah, I really want to retranslate everything because these are very bad translations.
Yeah. So let's see. The question arises, therefore, can the group conduct successful activity if its existence is measured by months? Obviously, the defects of the existing organizations cannot be wholly ascribed to this transitional period. Obviously, the numerical and above all the qualitative makeup of the functioning organizations is no small factor. And the first task our social democrats must undertake is that of effectively combining the organizations and making a strict selection of their membership.
Yep.
Like and making a strict selection of their membership.
Yep. Because we have there is a purpose. So just like letting any rando. Yeah, that's where they think that just if you have a lot of people doing something, you'll magically have, I don't know what, but they just think like you just need to have like a lot of people
just a lot
show up in public with signs.
Yeah, that's in fallout that I had when I did a Sunrise Movement protest.
Oh God, they're horrible.
So they were trying to do a protest of standing in front of this guy's yard about the broken pipeline, and
why would
all
they
did
in front of his yard?
It was a senator or something. This was maybe a month back. But it was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Anyways, they a local group of the Sunrise Movement, they reached out. They didn't have any like road guards or medical staff or anything like that. So I tagged along, and then I started like learning more about them. Like they were strictly nonviolent, which I get it, but the reason they were strictly nonviolent was because they wanted to have a safe place for children to protest. And I'm like,
children should not be at protests. That's ridiculously dangerous and stupid. It's not a barbecue. Children should not be there.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of, I think it's good for children to be exposed to political activism sometimes to see kind of what's going on. But at the same time, if the reason you're changing your policies is to make it more safe for children to attend, it's probably a bad idea. Like in Louisville, we had people bringing their kids, but we weren't liberalizing things for them. Those kids were dancing and slamming on police cars. Like it was like, we weren't changing to make the protest weaker.
Yeah. Okay. Also, if you guys haven't read it, Google Cory Morningstar and the wrong kind of green. So you'll kind of understand what eco-washing is. But for me, the Sunrise Movement lost me the minute they invited Joshua Wong, or not. It was not Joshua Wong. It was one of those Hong Kong regime change trolls. And it's like, wait a minute, you're gonna invite this like right-wing jackass who is terrorizing elderly people in Hong Kong. But they did cancel him after they got trolled on Twitter. But that just showed me like a lack of good judgment on their part.
Yeah, my thing was during the protest, there was some kind of inconsistency that I had some issues with. And I talked to them after the fact. And instead of addressing those inconsistencies, they just blocked me from their groups and chat rooms. And I was like, all right, then I guess you guys are dead to me, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This sounds exactly like Lenin would never do that. Lenin would argue with you for the next 6 hours about this inconsistency.
Lenin would write a piece about you.
I know. Yeah. But yesterday in Russian class, we read this really adorable story about Lenin. This was in 1893 in St. Petersburg. And Lenin Lenin told this guy, oh yeah, this is a really good book about cartels, trusts, and syndicates. But the book was in German. So the guy was like, I don't speak German. And he's like, okay, let's read it in Russian. So he opened up the book and he started like reading and live translating the book for about the next 3 hours from German to Russian.
Yeah, that's pretty like that's something that I feel like some people need now, but
Translation from German to Russian?
No, baby spoon fed some theory.
Oh, I can spoon fed. I can come any day, anytime, day or night to read you Lenin. I'd love to do it. So just call me, just tag me, I can do it anytime. I'll make a stream. I can like do a Zoom, like whatever you want. I will read it to you, babysit you. Yeah.
That's something I was talking about that's something that like Gomer and Sal are trying to do with the Red Army, trying to present theory and talk about it and make it simple.
But I mean, come on, how can it be any simpler than this? Like, if as long as you just have to trust Lenin. Like, if you don't understand something, he will make sure you understand it at the end, because he's writing for people who can't read, who are also not free to leave their master's estates, who are not exposed to the world. And sometimes he writes about like the US or India or something like that. So since he writes for that audience, he'll make sure everything is written out. Like, for example, he was writing about what like a subpoena was in Beat. Actually, I think for anyone who likes who's supporting Black Lives Matter, they should definitely read Beat, but not to death, because it's like every single police shootout in America, but like, so they beat this man to death in a prison. Like, it's really funny. But then like,
it wasn't funny, Yasha.
Yeah, I wouldn't say beating a man to death is funny.
No. The way Lenin wrote about it was hilarious.
The writing was very funny. Yes, it was very funny. I remember
he was very sarcastic, and he's like, our courts have ruled that you can beat a man, but just not to death. Which is probably what our courts have ruled. So he wrote like subpoena, and then right next to subpoena, he wrote, it is a piece of paper with all the alleged, like he explained it immediately, so he always does that.
Yeah. I think part of it's also making it attractive to right wingers, or making it attractive to people who aren't really attracted to the left yet. Okay.
Can I tell you my trick? I always take a Stalin quote and change it to Yusuf Jugashvili. I would say persecuted Georgian Christian priest, technically true. Georgian saint, technically true. And then you'd be surprised by the number of right wingers on Facebook who are like, oh my God, yes, this Jugashvili, like I've that's my number one troll tactic, is like getting them to share like Stalin memes by just changing the name to Stalin's real name.
Nice.
And you'd be surprised at how often they love what Stalin says.
Yeah, there's too much communism already on my page that a lot of people aren't going to agree with it, just because it's coming from me.
I know, but get one of your once you have to like somehow get it, and it's amazing how often, like, because Stalin is direct, simple, and unlike Lenin, he's not trolly. He's very, very polite. But all you have to do, just the name Stalin triggers them, so you just have to change it to Jugashvili, which is his real name, and like number of times people have like said, okay. So the funniest part is when it's like a Christian, I've always said Georgian saint. He did get sainthood, so from the Church of Georgia. And I actually a few years ago got this like right-wing Christian group to like make it go viral.
Nice.
And none of them knew better, but it was funny that all I had to do is change the name and make him Christian. Yeah. Georgian philosopher also worked. So where do people find you, and what are you up to next in terms of activism or organizing or anything else?
So they can find me on Twitter at Caboose GA, like Georgia. And the next thing I'm working on is this Saturday. There might be a Proud Boy, something justice for January 6th type deal. I might be going to counter protest.
In South Carolina?
It's supposed to be all over, all the state capitals.
Oh, so they're doing a national thing.
Yeah. And a lot of them are posting out that they're not going to go, that it's weird, but I think we're going to have a couple of people go counter protest them anyways, just in case.
Okay.
And
so maybe can you quickly tell people why it's important to counter protest outright fascists?
Because people need to realize that they're not alone when they see that this stuff is messed up. They need to see that there's other people who realize that's not okay. And there's other people that are willing to speak up against it. And also that's a great place to connect with other people that have similar ideas.
We're not fascists.
Who are not fascists.
Yeah.
So then on Sundays and Fridays, I have different mutual aid groups that not I have, but I'm associated with different mutual aid groups that do distributions on Fridays and Sundays in Columbia. And then there's one that I talk with on Saturdays in Atlanta.
Wow.
And that's I don't really go there as much anymore because it's kind of far.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Atlanta Justice Alliance. They're on Twitter at Atlanta Justice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other ones in Columbia are COLA People's Program, like COLA, like COLA for Columbia. And then on October 2nd, there's supposed to be a nationwide women's march against the abortion bans. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So if people follow you on Twitter, they can catch each of these events, right?
Between all my shit posting. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Shit posting is good. Lenin would approve. He always shit posted. Well,
yeah,
thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but yeah, I put all that stuff on my Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So please, if you're in the area, please go participate. What better way to enhance your life than meet other people who like Lenin? Oh, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Have a good day. Hi, everyone. I'm back. I got myself a good glass of wine to deal with the Kamala Harris nonsense. I mean, seriously, what's wrong with liberals? Oh, it's really funny, though. New York Times is having a big meltdown over the results of the Russian election that won't come until probably late Sunday, Monday even. So they're like, oh, the Kremlin's managed democracy. And by that, they mean, oh my God, Russia won't let us rig their election and elect another Boris Yeltsin. And they are melting down. So earlier this week, reporter Murad Guzdiev, I think, he released a leaked video from some National Endowment for Democracy training seminar where they were teaching those people how to make it look like they were being denied a ballot by spoiling the ballot and then having them get kicked out. But that video got leaked. So now they're just, New York Times is really panicking and crying. But we all know the reason why they're panicking and crying, because guess which party is Murad Gaziev. Yeah, guess which party is looking to take quite a bit of more seats. It's not what's his face, Navalny's fascist Apple Party, but the Communist Party of Russia is set to take quite a few seats. So the New York Times is really melting down, and they're talking about the post-Putin authoritarianism. Inshallah. Hopefully, maybe that. Oh, also, about 2 weeks ago, Russia and Belarus formed a economic agreement. So, inshallah is what I'm going to say. so right now the New York Times is like spitting out. They've already spit out about 3 articles about how unfair the elections in Russia are, but they're also now spit out something about Kremlin's managed. Oh, thank you so much, Arlen Everest. That's so kind of you. Budzdaro, Tavarish Stalin. Oh yeah. Somebody was asked if Lenin would. No, Lenin would not block anyone. Lenin's block list would be huge. Like Neera Tanden would have totally blocked him. I bet you like the entire Joe Biden cabinet would have blocked him. He'd be like I mean, if he were alive today, I bet you like 100 years from now, we'd have Lenin's collected tweets. He would be so online. So let's see. What's still happening in January? Oh, that, who cares? Who's a renowned poet? I don't know. Stalin was a renowned poet? Weird. We already have that Lenin _tweets. We just need some help because it's kind of overwhelming for me to actually do those tweets all the time because I'm managing historically in my main account and I'm trying to do YouTube and stuff. I had no idea that Stalin loved limericks. He didn't speak English though. Oh, well, whatever. That's so adorable. Okay. Let me Google that and see what his favorite Lenin selected tweets. I don't know how to pronounce that word. How do you pronounce that word? Oh, Shmoopy Shaboopy, it's just joking. I'm sorry. Stalin may not have loved limericks. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I'm getting like a big colatena. Okay. I am getting a good big headache from all the stupid that we have to deal with today or this week. Not you, Shmoopy. It is the not very dialectical communists who can't seem to handle the idea that, well, that people within the imperial cores' life is different thanks to imperialism. So let's bring up this tweet, and I'm having a headache now. The headache is from having to deal. Okay. So I love Kale. Well, okay, I don't want this to be interpreted the wrong way. Okay. I like Caleb, so don't troll him. He has a good heart. He has a very, very, very good heart, but he's just totally wrong here despite having a really good heart. So he's saying like, okay, he's kind of missing cause and effect. So what he says is there's plenty of vicious, extreme anti-communism in the developing world, but there's also mass communist organizations that recruit masses of people to counter it. And we don't have that here because leftists think it's class reductionism and prefer to just be right online. Okay. So this is where he gets the cause and effect completely messed up. In order to tear down communism in Yugoslavia, they had to bomb it for like 5 straight years, right? Because they were in the periphery, so they were never the beneficiary of imperialism, and communism is pretty popular to people. So let's kind of do a thought experiment. Suppose that you go to, I don't know, like a plantation, and then you tell all the slaves, yo, we've got a plan. Let's just shoot that jackass who is exploiting your labor, and then divide the estate amongst ourselves equally. That's communist propaganda, basically. And that the slaves will say, sure, absolutely. Because, and like initially they may be resistant because they might be scared of whether or not you will succeed. But once they know that you have a really good plan and there is at least a 50% chance of success, they'll be like, absolutely, I'm totally up for shooting that jackass. Right? Okay. Now, capitalist propaganda will be going to the same group of slaves and saying, hey, if you work hard and you follow all the rules, one day you will be able to own your own plantation. Oh my God, thank you again, Arlen Everest. That's so sweet. Aw, thank you. Okay. Oh yeah, we'll talk about the bridge later. Okay. So will that really work on people who are slaves? No, because they know the way the system works, and the system means that they're gonna die and they will never amount to anything. So that's not going to keep them working hard and continuing to work in the plantation. So that's the mismatch between capitalist propaganda and communist propaganda, is that one is a lie, one doesn't work, and the other is essentially truth. The only hesitancy is whether or not they'll succeed. And once they'll know that they'll succeed, there's literally nothing to be really like, they're like, yeah, let's totally shoot that jackass, is the what everyone's going to do. So that is to explain to you that for the unpropagandized people, it's not that hard to sell communism. It's super easy. Okay. So now let's continue on with this example. So now you have to look around the world, but oh boy, we have to kick out people. We have to kick out people. Yeah, the rules of this chat is irritating me gets you kicked out. Okay. So or any of the mods. Okay. So now you have thought of the slave example, the thought experiment. Now look at the conditions around the world, even now or 100 years ago, whatever. It hasn't changed that much for a lot of people. But if their existence is close to being a slave, like what if they're like a miner in Congo? What if they're like a Mika miner in India? What if they're a sweatshop worker in Bangladesh? Those conditions are pretty close to being a slave. So again, the communist propaganda will say, we'll shoot the jackass. The jackass may be different. So instead of being a plantation owner, the jackass may be Louis Vuitton. I don't know, who like did Rana Plaza. At that idea is going to be the only thing they're going to be afraid of is whether or not it'll succeed. But once they know it's at least 50% chance, they're like, yeah, totally, we'll shoot the jackass. Again, in the same situation, the capitalist propaganda will, in Bangladesh, if you go to a poor person and tell them, hey, if you work hard, you're going to get like success, and communism is a threat to national security. They're going to be like, fuck national security. Who cares? I can't eat. Go to hell, you idiot. Why, you white man, you're raping, like you should stop like raping children when you come to Bangladesh. Go away, you nasty person. And that's kind of the reaction. So what you should notice is that the US doesn't actually do, I mean, they do, but it's a horrible job and no one listens to it. Anti-communist propaganda abroad. Instead, they do the Jakarta method. That's why in Indonesia, they couldn't just say, Joseph McCarthy, communist, bad, 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 bad. Instead, they had to kill over 1 million people. In Chile, they couldn't just say, communism, bad, 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 bad. Nope. They had to throw people off from helicopters because people whose lives really sucked. In Yugoslavia, they had to have a 7-year-old, God knows how long, some genocidal war for a long, long time in order to, because that didn't work. In Afghanistan, they had to fight for 14 years and throw billions in weapons to break the democratic regime there. So, but in America, you literally had to go, communism, bad, 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 bad. And literally 3 years after capitalism did the Holocaust, you got American unions to expel communists. Heck. And then what you've noticed is that, so the difference isn't the propaganda, but the difference is the reality created for Americans. So for Americans, those like 4 years of World War II, ironically ended up like improving their lives to the point where they kind of, I don't know, God knows what happened. So that, but then in the third world, that's not possible. That's why, like, it's much cheaper to fight. It's okay. If you could just go communism, bad, 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 and show scary movies about how communists are evil, that is cheaper. And if you're a literal Wall Street investor, you're going to do that if you can. But they couldn't. They had to do this weird thing where they balkanized Korea, like where they cut off half of Korea and kill and destroy all 22 cities in Korea and kill 4 million people and over massacres because, again, in Korea, and even then they only got half of their goal. Now let's look at what they did in China. A few years later, it was very hard for them. I mean, they armed the bourgeoisie to the teeth. They went to and then eventually the bourgeoisie got to escape to Taiwan, but they didn't get anything they wanted in China. Vietnam, again, they had to do a war that lasted from 1964 to 1972 or 3. Long war. And even then, it was worse than Korea for them in that they didn't get what they wanted in Vietnam and they didn't get what they wanted in Laos. Well, Afghanistan, it took so much money, billions and billions of dollars in 14 years, and they still didn't exactly get what they wanted. So then they had to have a 9/11 to come and get what they wanted, but that lasted about 20 years, I guess. And like I said, so the propaganda, the reason, just because if all you need to do to get rid of communism is some propaganda plus a few murders or whatever they did, that means, generally speaking, the people's material needs are pretty well met because the propaganda has only, the propaganda can't, it can't, the propaganda, if can't lie to you about what your eyes can see. It has to be, it can only do it to things that your eyes can't see, but it has to match with your material reality or else you will reject it. And that's why you couldn't do it in Indonesia. And you had to, kill people by throwing whatever they did. So, and in Nicaragua, you needed the Contras. So that's what people don't realize, is that the problem is that the propaganda works because of imperialism. And this is where they all get their cause and effect confused. And I have no idea how to, I don't know. I don't know how to make people who can't, yeah, this is like the catch-22. Okay, let's see if there's anyone. Okay. So the pink rocks is really funny. Dan Crenshaw. I just tweeted out, oh, this bridge with pink rocks are petty or whatever. And Dan Crenshaw quote tweeted me, and it was like just crazy. And I'm like, why are you melting down over a random bridge in China? No, Caleb's tweet is not specific to the material conditions. No, he literally does not understand that the reason why the propaganda works in America is because of imperialism. No, the propaganda did not work. They had to go into the death squad territory. So check out our episode with Lithuania. They literally had to do this like Maidan type event. It was very terrible. A lot of people died. I mean, and in Tajikistan, they had to start a 5-year civil war with these like psychos. In Ukraine, they had to send thousands and thousands of Nazis over. It didn't even work in East Germany. They had to basically have Nazis like take over. Oh, and Romania, it was horrific. Thousands died. I mean, watch the movie Checkmate, Strategy for a Revolution, and they'll tell you about like they also had this like really crazy like Maidan type event. Yeah, right. In Russia, millions died. I mean, they got diphtheria again. Yeah, they won't tell you about all those people. And Tajikistan literally had a 5-year civil war between these like I forgot. In Russia, like there were these like in 92 or 93, there were these psychotic jihadis that like killed all these like Russian soldiers in the most brutal manner. Like, oh, and then they had to start this like civil war thingy with Al Qaeda in Chechnya. Like, it took a lot of death and destruction to get. And even today, if they did not have all the death squads and the US military bases and the things, like the Soviet Union would have reformed like within 1994. Heck, if like, you know that Boris Yeltsin had to shell the parliament in order to stop the Soviet Union from reforming. Not reforming, but reforming. So yeah, it was in Hungary, there was a literal coup because I read a CIA document that says we've infiltrated the Communist Party or something like totally psycho like that. So it wasn't even easy in East Germany. In fact, I forgot, in Albania, they actually had to ban the Communist Party because the Communist Party kept on winning, and they could not. They actually in Lithuania too, and then they had to put this listen to our episode with Lithuania. So it still is not easy. That's why and then with the Albania, the puppet government had to invite, like they had to also Balkanize Kosovo on top of that and create like a US base between Serbia and Kosovo so that they could be like, I don't know, there to coup both places. It is super hard to get rid of communism once it starts. So yeah, so that's and today, like I was just like, somebody asked me to do a video about Father Torres Restrepo from Colombia, who created the liberation theology. He was also a Marxist, Leninist, and a Catholic, and like a really good man. But he was but yeah, I was like, oh, they killed it. Like, so what you'll see is that that's why they would like kill them early before they had a big following, because it would be impossible, and they killed a lot. So yeah, outside of the imperial core, it's been just pure using the barrel of the gun and the coercive power of the state, and not manufacturing of consent. So yeah, if you can only manufacture of consent if it matches reality. I guess that's the end of my spiel. Sorry. Are there any other questions? The propaganda is for Americans. Why are you locked out on Twitter? the propaganda is for Americans to think that they're bringing freedom and democracy. Yeah, so that way, like, you're gonna, like, when you think of the Berlin Wall, you're not thinking Kristallnacht. Wait, these fascists are breaking the anti-fascist wall on Kristallnacht. No, you're thinking, oh, freedom, democracy. And so all of the color revolution propaganda is for the viewer at home, so that they can keep recruiting soldiers to go kill people. And another problem is that a lot of these people love to fetishize the working class. The working class is neither good nor bad. There are people. Oh, thank you so much. Too many. The working class is neither good nor bad. They're just people. Sometimes they can be good. Sometimes they can be bad. And they will have a wide range of emotions and things. So don't fetishize the working class as inherently good or inherently bad. But you have to actually believe that humans deserve rights, even if they're bad people. And there will be mean, petty, dumb, bad. No, okay. Shmoopy Shaboopy said, I remember a famous video of Yeltsin dancing. No, that was in 1995, where he was like drunk as a snake. No, are snakes drunk? I don't know why I use drunk as a snake. By the way, Lenin was a teetotaler versus Yeltsin. Okay, anyways, Yeltsin, that was in 1995 when he was with Clinton, when he was like really drunk and he almost, he's a horrible person. Did I forget anything? No, okay, let's wait for her to finish the cat. I know, what else? Okay, the wine is good. What else should we talk about? I don't know how to take some weird compliments. Like, I don't know whether I get confused because I don't want anything to be interpreted the wrong way or the right way. So life is hard, isn't it? I'm not that sophisticated to be able to describe wine. I'm really not that sophisticated. Like, I can't describe like wine. That's way beyond my capabilities. Like, some people are like, you need to just roll your tongue back or whatever, and whatever it is. I don't know. I just don't know, like, what it makes a good wine. Like, somebody like, there's like a mild, like, they make up all these crap, and it's like, okay, you just made this crap up, and I bet you can't taste this earthy tone or whatever. I bet you they all make it up. Like, they're like, this has a nice earthy tone with I don't know, aged in oak. Come on. Can you really tell if the wine is aged in oak or whatever? I don't know how Engels was probably anti-eugenics and anti-killing poor people. So, like, back in his day, abortion wasn't the biggest problem. I don't know if he was anti-abortion, but I don't think back in his day they could have even done that safe of an abortion. So I don't know. Okay. I knew it was all BS. Okay. I knew a wine guy in the business. He told me they totally BS their way through. Okay. I knew it. Okay. I knew it was utter nonsense because there's no way you can taste the whatever's. Yeah. It's like, it is total nonsense. Okay. Do we have any other, can somebody ask him, was I going to talk about something else? Yeah, I remember. Some idiotic candidate for some dumb office with allegedly the CPUSA quote tweeted me and said something dumb. So then I quote tweeted him back and said, "Don't be dumb." But then he's like, "You are interfering. You are sabotaging a CPUSA candidate." And I'm like, "Well, don't quote tweet me. If you're a CPUSA candidate, I didn't even know you were a CPUSA candidate, but if you're a CPUSA, don't quote tweet me. Just don't quote tweet. Just don't. Then I won't have, and when you quote tweet me, don't say something dumb. Just, don't do it." So yeah, it's like so many. Oh, and yesterday, yes, this like, I guess he belonged to some allegedly leftist podcast, and he still, like, for 4 hours, and he still could not understand why it is a benefit. Like, it's like, well, it is a benefit because it keeps the system going. So you're what makes it a benefit, not like, if you guys like, yeah, I mean, the fact that they could have kept capitalism going after World War II in the imperial cores is because you saw, your ancestors or progenitors or whatever saw it as a benefit. Well, one day, yeah. Oh, and today Nicolas Maduro is trolling the US by driving himself across Mexico. That's really funny. Yeah, I like it when Nicolas, but he's gotten gray hair and he's gotten much older than I used to remember him. But I guess that's what all these coups and stuff does. Did I forget anything important? Did I forget anything important? No, I probably didn't. Okay, so the US government had a bounty on Maduro's head one day. Oh my God, that's so cool. It's a glow in the dark painting. And I didn't even understand it at first. Now, oh my God, it's so cool. It took me a long time to understand this. Wow. Aha. I feel so silly, like, for not. Well, I mean, the CPUSA is genuine enough that you should probably join it. It's just that the reality in the US core means, unfortunately, enough people are comfortable enough that they'll never question things. And they also won't learn the skills to analyze things, and they won't have the empathy to put themselves in these shoes and try to even analyze it. So it's a threefer. And so it makes it a hard thing. We all hate living in the imperial core. What can we do? C'est la vie. Well, what we should do is, anytime they try to have regime change propaganda, you have to always remember that no matter what, even Saddam Hussein is better than what, heck, screwed Saddam. Even the Taliban seem better than what came after, with the warlords, like, with those rapey warlords. Like, I mean, it's very close there, but at least, like, there is no government, like an organic government, that has to live. Okay, if you're a local bourgeoisie and you have to live there, you are afraid of the barrel of their gun eventually. But if you're an international imperialist, you are so isolated that there's like you can just like drop bombs on them all the time. So you have to be very anti-imperialistic and educate all your friends and family about, like, every time they're like, oh, brutal dictator who suppresses his own people. You have to be like, well, suppressing your own people is good if your people believe that they need to commit genocide, and suppressing your own people is bad if they just want equal rights. So like that's like the most annoying American thing is, oh my God, he cracked down on dissent. And then they never ask, so what was the dissenting opinion about, and how did he express his opinion? And the clue is right there, because if they weren't totally fascist, then they would actually tell you what his dissenting opinion is, not just the fact that he dissented. That's why they say that Navalny dissented, as opposed to, oh, Navalny wants to privatize gas companies and argue why orphans shouldn't get benefits, and instead it should go to private companies. Like, he's a corporate lawyer who litigates for shareholder rights. Now that's going to make you think, oh my God, what a scumbag. And it'll make you think, what a scumbag. So that's why the only thing they'll say is he disagrees with the Russian government. But so the hint is, the first thing is they're afraid to tell you what his dissenting opinion is, because it's probably something really gross. That's the first thing. Because if they were fighting for something, they would totally explain, oh, he's fighting for freedom, democracy, something. Well, not freedom and democracy, but he's fighting to end apartheid. He's fighting for workers' rights, whatever. Nope. And so cracking down on dissent in itself is not good or bad. It really depends on who the dissident is and who the government is. And I'm so tired of like explaining to Americans, including people like, even like Noam Chomsky is so dumb about this. It's like, what do you think Stalin's dissidents believed about the final solution to the Jewish question? And they just don't. Got it. Okay, now I remember when it went. Okay, so earlier this week, I also got into a little bit of an argument with this like weird journalist who works for The Intercept, who said that communists came to power in Bulgaria in a violent coup in 1944. Oof. And I was like, but then I realized that her grandfather was in a gulag because he was probably a you-know-who, and whatever. So, yeah, she has a material interest to beg the question, but I was just taken, Tana Geneva or something like that. Tana Ganyeva, I don't know what her name is. But yeah, it was like so cringe. I was like so shocked that she would openly put violent, like, the thing is, you have to erase that part and said communists were cool when the fascists were around. Yeah, there was a world, and Bulgaria was fascist. No question about it. So there was, you kind of need to say communists were cool until 1945, and then they turned authoritarian. That's the lie that you're supposed to tell to not look like a total fascist. But she didn't do that. She was like, they came to power in a violent coup in September of 1944. Yes, the fascists they were not oppressed violently enough, in my opinion. But I believe Tito did this like really cool thing where he like put them all in a mine shaft and like close the door or something. Didn't he like stick them all in a, like, I forgot what he did, but it's something about like, there was a really funny New York Times article about like mass graves from the communist era found in Yugoslavia. And when you clicked on it, you're like, the mass graves of exclusively Nazis and Ustazi soldiers. And you're like, okay, sounds like Yeah. And it was like, it was really funny. I'll bring it up next week if somebody reminds me right before the show. But it was a hilarious New York Times cope, as in, like on the first line, they couldn't hide it. They were just like, oh yeah, they found a mass graves of Nazis. And okay, so yep, Tito threw the fash into a pit. Yep, that's exactly where they belong, all of them in a pit. I'm trying to remember the story, but yeah. Anyways, with that, I hope. Wait, she's not done yet, so we won't. I will rant about Tito for a little bit longer. Okay, there's nothing to think about. He is literally a CIA. No, okay, not a CIA, but I forgot. He's funded by some like dumb regime change op. I forgot which one, but Google. I bet you I've tweeted it out on historically. Yeah. So yeah, he is definitely. Oh, Gonzalez. Speaking of that, what's his name? The guy Albert Guzman, who was in charge of the Shining Path movement in Peru, died last week. It was I don't know what to. He died on 9/11. It was so weird. I don't know what to say, but he was a very strange person. And I'm still waiting on the Abi Mael Guzman. Yeah, I'm still waiting on the FOIA requests to see if cat isotopic algorithm is behind it. Hi, Gani. Yeah, you missed me making fun of Kamala Harris and the way she lied about her. Like, okay, since you're a South Indian too, what's the probability that an Indian mom would say, if you work hard, you can be whatever you want? Congratulations. So, is that an A? Congratulations. Yeah, Gani's a smart person. He's studying to be an engineer, I believe. 100% probability. See, even Gani doesn't believe it. It's like, no, the Indian mother is like, no, you better study or else you'll become a loser. You can either be a doctor or an engineer, is what she would say. Spasiba, Dmitry Barkowski. What flag is that? It doesn't matter. It's a nice flag, though. Thank you so much. Oh, do tell us. Explain the openly crooked government job. Okay, yeah, Gani's right. It's literally two options: doctor or an engineer. Because anything else, because it's, I mean, and the reason why is because of imperialism. In America, you can study like lots of crap and you can still get a job, I guess. You just can't do it in countries where under the yoke of imperialism, you kind of, if you don't like, yeah, it's like there are very few jobs, very few livelihoods. Everything's harder there. Okay, I love it when I have I love it when I have Ukrainian people watching this. This is, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Well, go to her website and wow, so beautiful. I wish I knew how to paint. It's like I feel jealous of people with artistic talent. This is lovely. Yeah, she does it in 2.5 hours, and I don't know if it's for sale or to be auctioned off. I would totally paint Lenin all over my wall. Like, yeah, I'd have like everything would be creepy Lenin-ish. But like I said, at least I have a cult of personality over somebody who's worth having a cult of personality over. And like, I feel so gross about reading it. Well, yeah, nice work. Are you able to talk, or are you still finishing off? Okay, let her still finish off. We shouldn't. Delta. What is delta? I don't understand delta. Okay.
She's muted. Oh no, she's not muted.
Okay. Don't worry about it. We'll talk nonsense. Oh, we're not talking nonsense, but we're keeping everyone entertained. So take your time, no rush to finish off. What was I saying? Let's see. What else do we talk about? Is the U? Oh yeah, Ethiopia. Okay, so the president of Ethiopia or the prime minister of Ethiopia wrote U.S. a letter saying, "Knock it off with the stupid Tigray coup part where you're trying to ruin our train." Like, so Ethiopia like got China to build like a train that goes across the country, and the U.S. tried to make up this fake separatist movement, and he was like, "Knock it off with this Tigray stuff, and let us build trains." So it's a difference. It's a big difference between what happened in Guinea last week.
Yes, you can hear me now.
Yeah. So do tell us.
Fixed it.
what was wrong with it? I don't know what was wrong with it.
My browser was blocking the access of the app from using my microphone, even though I allowed it. So we finally got it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying all these fixes. Anyways, this is for sale now. I'll price it later today, and it'll be for sale. It's ready to go and everything. You can find my work at artsymarxist.com. I take commissions, and have some other pieces for sale right now, actually, in a sale going on. So I don't know. I have much art in my house. That's the problem. Too much communist art, so.
Oh no, you can never have too much communist art. It needs to be everywhere.
Wish I could show you the entire room, because there's canvases 5 thick all around the perimeter of every room in my house.
God. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So. Okay. We'll get some circulated around. We should have. Is it possible to have a virtual gallery, host a virtual gallery of all your paintings? Or no?
Yeah. I have my website, and then we could work something else out as well. So that would be awesome.
Let's try that. Yeah, let's try that. Okay. We'll connect with you. Somebody said I worked for the U.S. Postal Service. Every vehicle that was out was unsafe, broke one of the many laws, didn't follow their own policies, and instructed workers to do otherwise, or completely opposite. They didn't follow labor law or their contract, threatening me when I attempted to practice protected activity. I didn't give them any notice when I quit, which was in fairly short order. I'm so sorry. That really sucks. But now, and this is the post office. So imagine how bad. Oh, I don't even want to imagine. Okay, let's not imagine. Holy God, they falsified paper. Okay. Oh my God, let's just think about how much paperwork the Marines falsify and all the people that they just disappeared. Oh, you know that in 2011, the U.S. just wiped out a village in Afghanistan, and you never heard about it? And by the way, how did you make it glow in the dark?
I got some blacklight paint. So this painting will light up. All you need to do is install a blacklight on it, in front of it or whatever, and it will glow. And it's cool because it changes colors 3 times. We've got normal light, and then half blacklight and normal light and blacklight. So it's really fun. I'm loving this new paint.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I love this. It's very cool and interesting, and I didn't realize it was glow in the dark until you turned off the light. I was like, wow, it glows in the dark. So, thank you. And we should do this again. And this is really cool. And I'll talk to you about Yakov Pavlov. Like, okay, so there, like I don't feel like I feel creepy having a book about like a children's book about Lenin, but I don't feel creepy about having a children's book about Yakov Pavlov, and I don't know the difference. What's the difference? Why do I feel okay with?
Why not both? We should have children books of both.
No, Lenin feels wrong. Yakov Pavlov feels right. We can also do Sasha Pechersky. That feels right. Who's that lady? I can't remember her name. She's the one who bombed William Kube, but left it doesn't matter. And then there's lots of wonderful partisans that we can talk about. Like,
what about Mila how do you say her last name?
Ludmila Pavlichenko.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we can do that. But she's like Woody Guthrie's already sung a song about her, so I'd rather find somebody that Americans don't know much about and highlight them. That's the difference.
Yeah. I suppose I'm biased because I didn't know anything about Lenin until, when I became a communist 3 to 5 years ago. So I would have known about him as a kid. An actual hero or whatever that isn't, a terrible racist like we have here in the U.S. That's all we had.
Okay.
So,
in India, it's a different story. So that's why I feel kind of weird about doing it. But you're okay. So I actually agree with you now then. I changed my mind. Okay. Now it doesn't feel creepy anymore. Okay. Okay. So we'll talk a long time and we'll organize this and we'll make it happen.
Awesome.
Anyways, please go to artsymarxist.com. Buy as many paintings. Gani, to be honest, I always was an ML. I knew capitalism was wrong every time I saw people in India. I don't know how to explain it, but it was wrong. Like, yeah. Probably I think Iraq may have pushed me over the edge. And yeah, like it was horrible. Like watching, I was like 13, 14, very young. I just found, they look so different. Lenin is bald. Stalin has hair. They have a completely different personality. Lenin's like a troll. Stalin's like super reserved and polite. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, they look completely different. Okay, that's very funny that you got them both mixed up, even though they looked very different. Okay, you never paid attention. Okay. Yeah, and Stalin makes people like jump even today, 70 years after he died. So, yeah. Anyways, we will be back throughout the week, and yeah, of course they made up. I mean, okay, so Lenin would get mad at every random person often, so it's not like that big of a deal. The only reason you know about it that much more, the only reason you know about the Lenin wife thing, but not the Lenin forgetting Stalin's name thing, is because of Trotskyites. And even now, if I had to go back in time to do something to save the Soviet Union, my first thought is always like ice pick Trotsky in 1917, and not I think he's done the most damage to communism worldwide. Do you agree, Artsy?
I don't actually know. Yeah, I think it's pretty bad what he did. But I don't know in terms of scale of the most damaging thing.
Okay. Okay.
I'm certainly not proud, that's for sure.
Okay. So So my thought is always ice picking Trotsky, but I could be wrong, unless there's something else that I need to do that's not ice picking.
Could be good.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah.
Ice picking Germany in 1918. How do you ice? I don't know. Anyways, So it's pretty, yeah, that's like I have like number one thing is and oh, by the way, yesterday Yasha no, there's absolutely nothing useful about Trotskyism. Trotskyism is a counter-revolution in disguise. Google this, and the U.S. Yeah, but the U.S. obviously has, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about. But who do you ice pick in the U.S.? That's the thing. Like Trotsky's an easy target to go.
In the U.S., you got to get a lot of people.
Exactly. That's why it's not like
the U.S. government for like 300 years.
Exactly. So there's not like one target to ice pick like Trotsky.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why okay, but I could be wrong. We'll have an extended poll next week to figure out how do we go back in time and save the Soviet Union. And if it's not ice picking, nah, okay, maybe. Okay. Anyways, with that, push Trotsky down the stairs. Okay. This is when somebody says when you have only an ice pick, everyone appears as Trotsky. Yes, you're right. It's probably because I'm thinking of the ice pick that everyone is appearing as Trotsky to me because of the ice pick. Okay. Anyways, with that, we will depart. Oh, no, nothing. Yasha did not know that Trotsky was ice picked, and I found that strange that he did not know that Trotsky was ice picked. Anyways, with that, I will say Smrti fascismo sloboda na narodu.